Welcome back into the huddle, talking Sullivan South Rebel football with head coach Sam Haynie. And coach, hey, we went up the road last Friday night for a typical Mountain City Friday night. It was actually pretty pleasant weather-wise, and field was in okay condition. Our young men went up there and got a big W for the conference.
We did. You know, that's the first time our kids have been up there. We've played in that conference several years ago, but the ride up the mountain got a little long the closer we got, but not too bad of a trip. And against I think a quality football team in Johnson County, and ended up with a 42-12 win.
We were talking last week about the bus trip. I know you guys went up, I think went kind of that snake trail back through there. How'd that go for the boys on the bus riding around those tight curves?
You know, we were all right. You know, the interstate to Damascus wasn't bad, and we got off. Once you get on up there within about 10 or 12 miles, you start making some turns. Coach Sturgill, I think he had to ride with his head up close and get a little bit of air. But for the kids, I think we all made it up there in one piece.
We do. We had a great outing up there, great broadcasts, again, from Johnson County. May I say the folks up there are very hospitable. They have a lot of respect for Sullivan South football. We were up here talking to some folks before the game. They realized that this team coming in was loaded, and we showed that, winning 42-12. And by and large, last Friday night pleased our performance.
Well, you know, I don't know that mentally we were there in terms of focus and execution from a mental standpoint. I felt like physically on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, we played really, really well. Our offensive line gained a lot of confidence up there, and I saw something out of them. You know, our skill guys did enough to win the football game. There's a lot of things we had to get corrected this week. But all in all, you look at the total body of work, it's hard to complain when you win 42-12.
We're talking to head coach Sam Haynie. We're talking Sullivan South Rebel football in the huddle here. We do this each week. I'm very excited about bringing this to you around the world, of course, via internet, kind of like internet broadcast, internet television, internet telecast, I guess what we would call this. Coach, you know what I'm going to ask you before we get into the highlights. Penalties, a lot of penalties. Obviously, as we move forward here, heading into Elizabethton this week and the playoffs, beyond that, we've got to get that corrected. And how do you do that as a coach?
Well, a lot of those penalties are a lack of focus when you're not ready to play. I feel like there's been a couple games this year where we've got some penalties, and I feel like that goes kind of hand in hand with not being focused and ready to go from a mental standpoint. Those bigger football games are those games we've been locked in. I think the penalties have been at a minimum. But the bottom line, and I tell the guys all the time, so many football games are lost, not won. It's things that you do to hurt yourself that determine the outcome more so than what the other team does to beat you. And, a penalty at the wrong time can kill a drive or momentum against a good football team.
Let's get started with the highlights. Here we're talking Sullivan South Rebel football. The head coach, Sam Haynie, glad to have you with us here. And Coach, first one, 10-11 to go in the first quarter. Didn't take long. First play from scrimmage, and I thought Christian made a heck of a catch and a great juke to get free down the near sideline to score the touchdown.
Yeah, Coach Jordan, probably don't know if I should say this or not. He had a bet with me that we'd score on the first play of the game, and he had one dialed up there. Blake down the sidelines. He made a good move to miss a free safety and got us a fast start. That may have contributed a little bit to us relaxing that we scored that easy, but it's always good to get that first touchdown.
So the question was and is, what was on the line for the bet?
$10. Just $10. Nothing big. I actually haven't paid him yet, so nothing illegal's gone on yet. But, yeah, he said I've got one dialed up here on the first play. And just to keep him going, I bet him, just to get him going. And so, it was good diagram. He, through film work and knowing what Johnson County did, we got Blake open down the hash or down the sideline, and Dylan threw a good ball there.
Let me just say this about Coach Jordan, having spent the Friday night inside the same room with him, calling the ball game on one side, he was on the other. It doesn't take much to get him going. I learned that real quick.
It does not. He's a fiery guy.
Yes, he is. That'd be a good way to describe it. Christian, a 54-yard pass from Wigger. Burdines point after 7-0 Sullivan South. That's your first quarter score. Coach will come right back. 9:33 to go in the first half. Blake with a little 5-yard run, running hard, got him another touchdown.
I felt like our offensive line grew up a little bit Friday night. They were a little more physical against some bigger guys. Blake got us started there. When things are going bad, I say this a lot, when things are going bad with penalties and turnovers and a little bit of chaos, a line and a good running back can get you settled down. Blake did a good job making some cuts. We got off the ball pretty good, and he got us on the board there again.
We talk about the coaching staff. We have fun with Coach Jordan, these folks, but at the end of the day, you are surrounded, and you've done this intentionally. You've surrounded yourself some great men and some great coaches.
And everybody's unique. Everybody laughs at the guys we got here from the standpoint of, I guess we could use the word character loosely. We've got a bunch of characters around here. But at the end of the day, like you said, they love the kids. The kids' best interests are at heart. Sometimes emotion gets a hold of some of them sometimes, and they get fired up, which is okay. But they do a good job and put a lot of time into these football seasons.
I thought the backbreaker this football game, of course, we will take the second half kickoff in this football game. So right before halftime, 53 seconds to go. Wigger pounds it in from 1 yard out, puts us up with a point after 21-6. I thought that really kind of took some of the wind out of their sails. They went into the locker room at halftime for Johnson County.
It did. Another one of those things down on the goal line where we had to be physical, and Dylan pounded it in there. After everything that went on in the first half from a penalty standpoint, I felt pretty good. Being up 21-7, and the speech at halftime was more about mentality and mental and fighting through and not making those same mistakes in the second half.
We'll take a quick break, come right back. We'll look at the second half highlights again as we move on here. Again, you're watching In the Huddle with head coach Sam Haynie. We're talking Sullivan South Rebel football.
What does Fort Henry Drive, Sullivan South, and Great American Food all have in common? The Hot Dog Hut in Colonial Heights, located at 4028 Fort Henry Drive in Kingston. The Hot Dog Hut has a wide selection of mouth-watering food and is locally owned by Jim Hackett, so you're sure to always be treated like a neighbor, not just a customer. So whether you're a die-hard Sullivan South Rebel or just a fan of great American food, stop by the Hot Dog Hut in Colonial Heights.
Wake up to a new, better breakfast. It's Golden Corral's tastier than ever ultimate weekend breakfast buffet. For one low price, it's our new buttermilk pancakes, bacon, sausage, signature omelets, and more. Juice included. It's a better breakfast, and it's only at Golden Corral.
Back talking Sullivan South Rebel football. I'm your host, Tom Taylor. Don't forget this week the game will be on the radio, of course. On Thursday night, we'll talk about that. It's what we're calling the Showdown in Cowtown for the Three Rivers Conference Championship. It'll be going on at 6 o'clock on Thursday night. We'll start our coverage on AM 870 and 100.7 FM. So we got radio coverage. Of course, next week we'll talk about the Elizabethton game with Coach and get ready for the first round of the playoffs. Coach, before we get into these highlights, 14 straight years we have qualified for the playoffs at Sullivan South. I haven't had a chance to sit down and do any homework or any studying on that, but I don't know if very many teams across Northeast Tennessee can say they've been to the playoffs 14 straight years.
That's something that we're definitely proud of, that we've accomplished that. I think we've talked about this before from the coaches we've had here, all the way back from the beginning of the school till now, and the kids in the community. We've kind of been a model of consistency, averaging 7-8 wins a year, making the playoffs, and it makes it really, really fun to coach in a proud tradition type school like we got here.
Friday night's win gave us 244 as a school. So again, Thursday night's game, if we can nail that one down, give us 245 as a school. It's going to be very tough. We'll talk about that coming up in a moment. Coach, highlights second half up at Johnson County. Josh Booker got it going in the second half with a touchdown pass. Nice looking catch and run from Booker from Dylan Wigger.
Yeah, he got behind the defense there on that one. Dylan threw a good ball to him, and Josh always catches anything that's close, and got us a little bit of separation there to start the third quarter.
Yep, the second touchdown with 5:40 to go in the third quarter. Thought this was huge. It was a fourth down play. We needed a few yards, and we got more than that. 24-yard strike from Wigger to Booker over the middle, and big-time catch for touchdown on fourth down.
And it was a good read by Dylan. That was about his second option. Booker coming across on a dig route, good bullet in there. Josh caught it, made a play to the end zone, and kind of got us a little bit more separation there. At that time, which was really, really huge.
Dakota Wright gets a touchdown for Johnson County with a minute 40 to go at the end of the third quarter, and so at the end of three, we lead at 35-12. I'll say this, they're gritty at Johnson County. We knew that. These kids, they didn't give up. They kept going and scratching and clawing and digging. So that's a testament to the program. They didn't give up against South.
It is, and we know going up there that those are the kind of kids they have. They've played us tough, every time. Last year was a very physical game down here. Not quite as physical this year, but they threw the ball really, really well against us, and they get after you, and that's something that you're used to when you play at Johnson County.
Speaking of gritty and a hard-running young man, this kid got his first varsity touchdown for Sullivan South. Tony Guzman, or Guzman, I've heard it pronounced both ways. He doesn't care. He just wants that pigskin, and he took it in for his first touchdown. He runs hard, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, Tony's probably got as a high of a character kid as we've coached here. He's worked extremely hard in the weight room. There's probably a trail on the bank in the stadium there for him going up and down, just trying to get better. He's been up and down, in and out of the lineup. Never heard him complain. Always does a good job with the scout team. Just that kind of kid that you want your son to be like, really. And that's good. I'm glad he got him a touchdown there, running hard there at the end of the game.
Rebels win at 42-12. They lead the series now 9-1. And, Coach, let's talk about that defense. We held a pretty good offensive football team to only 12 points. One of our players of the game on the radio was Grant Ward, had a big night. Strickler was back there all night long. Tommy Morris had a good night. So our defense, once again, the nasty boys, the linebackers, and the rest of the defensive unit really shut down the Johnson County offense.
They did. Grant knocked a couple passes down, put some pressure on the quarterback a little bit. Big, tall kid that's hard to throw the football over. Jacob Strickler all over the place. I felt like our secondary had a little trouble in coverage early on. They tightened it up later on. And when we needed them to step up, they made some plays.
You take a look at Dylan Wigger. I'm looking down the stat sheet here again. 3 more touchdown passes. We just say that, I guess, has come so natural because the kid's so good. 3 more passes, another multi-touchdown night for Dylan Wigger. Some kids never get a chance to get any of those, and I think I have to go back and look. I think it's like his 15th or 16th multi-touchdown night of his career, and it's like, here goes Wigger again, but this kid's special.
Yeah, and like you said, we have thrown at one point in time, I'm sure the percentage is a little bit lower now, that almost a third of our passes caught were touchdown passes, and that's an incredible number. I'm sure it's down a little bit from that. But, yeah, as you alluded to, we've thrown a lot of them. I think he's at 29 now. Mm-hmm. And, if nothing unforeseen happens, maybe break his own record, which is a heck of an accomplishment.
Absolutely. So, again, South puts the finishing touches on a 42-12 win. Coach, a couple of things before we go to the break. Of course, the last segment will obviously promote and preview the Elizabethton Cyclone game. But reclassification next year, start with that. Is this probably the last Triple C Johnson County?
Yeah, unless we were somehow to get them in a non-conference game, Johnson County will be a 3A playoff team, or a 3A conference team, I guess I should say. We solid there in 4A. Not quite got sorted out exactly who's going to be in District 1 and District 2. It looks like, though the numbers are in, and within the next week or so, we should know who's in our district.
We mentioned earlier in the program here about the fact that we're going to the playoffs for the 14th straight year, and we are going to be going somewhere next Friday night. Obviously, we hope to be right here at Carl Matherly Stadium on John Island Compton Field. The scenario, before we get into the break, we'll again come back and talk about Elizabethton, but the scenario for next week in the playoffs.
Well, if we start down the quadrant, one game to look at is Fulton playing against Carter for their district championship. Fulton wins based on what they've done. They would be the 1 seed. Catholic and Alcoa play for their conference championship as well as does Elizabethton and ourselves. And depending on the outcome of those games will depend on where we go. It looks like if we win, you're looking at a 2-3 seed. If you lose, you're probably going to be a 5 seed and going on the road.
So the key to win this game this week is to win. You'll be at home. If you lose, you're on the road. And I mean, lots of things happen when you go on the road in the playoffs. So key to this thing is get a W against a very good team and be at home next Friday night, right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Yep. Quick break. We'll come back and talk about the obvious. It's going to be for the Three Rivers Conference Championship, and obviously with reclassification, this will be the final Three Rivers Conference Championship, the way things are set up as it is in 2014. Huge football game coming up this week. We'll tell you all about that as we come back and talk more with head coach Sam Haynie. You're watching Sullivan South Rebel Football.
From the driveways where your kids play basketball and ride their bicycles, to the parking lots at your local church or grocery store, Bracken Paving is an important part of many neighborhoods in our area. No matter how large or how small the job, Bracken strives for excellence in every service they provide. It's a foundation for a strong community. Discover the difference at Bracken Paving and Asphalt Maintenance. Give us a call or visit us online at brackenpaving.com.
Back in the huddle talking Sullivan South Rebel football, head coach Sam Haynie. And coach, this is what you play for. All those August practices and off-season conditioning. You get ready for a conference championship. We got one this week against a very good Elizabethton team, and kind of do a preview about the Cyclones.
Well, you know, if you look at them, looking at some stats today, their lowest scoring output is 34. You know, so that's a ton of points. You know, if you start with our football team, it's a very, very strong offense. It's no secret that the running back's good, Ethan Thomas. They got a backup kid that's a hoss too, number 11. He's a heck of a football player. And the receivers and quarterback, kind of the unsung people on their football team, because of how strong that their running game is. But they can throw the football when they need to. And they've got several linemen, big boys, the big ones. So we'll have our hands full. From a defensive standpoint against Elizabethton's offense, Coach Whitten does a good job changing up formations and getting the looks he wants to. And then defensively, a solid defensive team too, like to change their looks, not let you get comfortable. So, you know, we got our hands full from a talent and a personnel standpoint and a scheme standpoint. But, you know, I like what our kids they've worked all year. You know, a lot of times you get worked up, try to work harder for a day or two before you play. This is accumulation of what you've done since January.
You know, we talked about the game last year, 28-27. We lose it here in a heartbreaker to the Cyclones. I talked to some of the guys after the season that said that night Ethan Thomas got stronger because, man, they pounded him in the first half. He really took some shots from our defense, and it looked like he got stronger as the game went on.
He did, and that's a big thing. I think everybody comes out, you know, rip-roaring against him, and they stop him 3 or 4 times, 3 or 4 series. He comes out in the second half, makes some big plays, and just keeps getting stronger. And a lot of coaches have told me that too.
You look at this football team, Elizabethton, you talk about the point production, the offense, and Ethan Thomas, the all-time leading rusher in Northeast Tennessee. But you also look at Caleb Armstrong. This guy, as you said, I think their secret weapon, if there is such a thing, is their passing game. We hear about the running, and it's there. But obviously Armstrong's a heck of a passer.
He is, and very efficient. If you look at his statistics, he's in the 60% range, which is really, really good. Marcus Olds, Jalen Allen. I think Jalen something. He's number 5, big, tall receiver, good football player, makes a lot of plays, and they got some people that can get it done in the receiver corps.
On the other side of the football, defensively, they're very strong and stout as well, and they have a pretty good package defensively. And as you said, they mix it up.
They do, and against the spread offense, we're going to have to be simple and know what we're doing. We can't take a game plan in there with a lot in it because they like to mix up their looks and give you man coverage, zone coverage, blitz, drop. So we'll have to be very simple. Going to kind of put it on our aggression, how well we play, how hard we play, and see what happens.
As a coaching staff, let's face it, some of the games you look on the schedule, knowing going in, it's like, oh, boy, we're going to kill these guys, and most of the time this season we have. So on the flip side, how do you keep a kid from getting too fired up? How do you throttle your team now? I guess the way I want to say this, going over there and knowing they're going to be sky high. And how do you kind of keep everybody on an even keel going into the game?
Well, we've talked about that. You know, that's something that we talked about on Sunday when we come in. We just talked about our emotions, and we don't kick it off till 7:30 on Thursday. Nobody's ever done anything great being scared. You know, I've said that to the kids. A lot of times you get so nervous and get scared. I don't know that anything has been accomplished but survival, being scared. So we want us to be relaxed, trust in our abilities. And, you know, one of these days you're going to think back and talk about it, and hopefully that your effort is something that's been there.
Special teams, always a critical part of the football game. We got a couple of great kickers in Burdine and Colton Young, and a pretty good punter in Wigger. Advantage us or them in the special teams game?
Well, they got some speed, as we do. So, I mean, I think that's something to look at during the game. What team takes advantage of that? What team minimizes their mistakes in the special teams game? You know, we, like you said, you alluded to, our kickers have done a good job. Dylan's punted it well, but you don't want to give something up silly in the special teams game.
Sullivan South comes in ranked 7th in the state, Elizabethton 10th in the state. Again, it's for all the marbles. Am I right in saying this is pretty much the Three Rivers Conference? As we know, it's not going to be the same from here on out, right?
No, I think this will be the last year of the structure as it is, and don't know if we'll ever play Elizabethton again in non-conference. So, you know, and they're shutting their stadium down. Now, with all due purposes, I think this is the last game in Brown Children's Stadium unless they were to make the playoffs there. So it's special for them, too. So we got to understand from the other side what they're in for.
I've been told a lot of their former players are going to come back because this is the last game in Brown Childers Stadium. It's had a lot of history there, obviously, as you said. And so it's a lot of different variables off the field getting ready for this football game. The bottom line is it's between the chalk, it's in the trenches, and it's X's and O's. And what are the keys for Sullivan South to get over there and win this game?
Well, as we talked about earlier, we can't have penalties. You got to win the turnover margin. You got to play really, really good tackle well for 4 quarters. You can't tackle well for a half. I think, I think Ethan had 36 yards in the first half and came out in the second half and had over 100. So we got to tackle well for 4 quarters and just play smart football and have a good time and do what you've been coached to do and minimize the mistakes. I think you look back at the end of the game, whatever team comes up on the short end and see some things that if they would have done this or that, or taking advantage of this or that they could have won the football game, and the winner's going to look at those same 3 or 4 plays that they took advantage of the opportunity.
It's interesting on our schedule. It's the only team the South has a losing record on the seasonal series. Everybody else we have a winning record on except Elizabethton. I think they lead us it's either 17 or 16 to 15 in the all-time series. So, Coach, from a fan standpoint, of course, you want to get over there early. It's in a residential neighborhood. Parking will be at a premium, but again, you got the 7th-ranked team in the state, Sullivan South, 10th-ranked team in the state, the Elizabethton Cyclones. That alone should have a big house, and everything's going to be on the field, and everything that we're playing for the playoffs, and it should be an electric atmosphere there Thursday night.
Yeah, that's what you ask for. I mean, so many times you play high school football, and you may not create those kind of atmospheres by what you do. These kids are going to get that opportunity to do that. As coaches, we may have a chance to play. Hopefully we'll have a chance to coach in games like this. But for these seniors, this is their opportunity, their stage. They've created it for themselves, so I'm excited for them. Heck, we've been coaching up, get them coached up this week. We'll have a little bit to do with the game Friday night, but we're right there with them, and we'll see if we can't get them through.
Good luck. Go Rebels.
Go Rebels.
Yep. Head Coach Sam Haynie again will be on the radio, AM 870, 100.7 FM, and around the world on TopGunRadio.com. So, again, if you can't get there on Thursday night, not Friday, but on Thursday night, certainly dial us in on the radio and get ready for some great coverage as what we're calling the Showdown in Cowtown. Again, it's 7th-ranked South and 10th-ranked Elizabethton for all the marbles for the Three Rivers Conference Championship coming up on Thursday night. Next week, we'll have yet another show with Coach Haynie. Get ready for the playoffs. As we said earlier, Sullivan South has qualified for the playoffs for the 14th straight season, and I don't know very many schools around here can say that. It's quite an honor, and I'm very proud to be part of it. And so we'll get ready to play for the 14th straight year in postseason play next Friday night. But this week, big one in Elizabethton. I hope you'll be there. If not, give us a listen on the radio. And certainly tell your friends about this show. We'll do another edition of the In the Huddle. Head Coach Sam Haynie coming up next week. Again, I'm your host, Tom Taylor, for Sullivan South Rebel Football. Reminding you, as always, win or lose, be a good sport. So long, everybody.